The topic of tonight is to look at the cause of chronic disease, cancer in particular. But as you will discover as we go through it, that chronic disease has the same underlying causes, whether it be cancer, fibromyalgia, multiple sclerosis, dementia, diabetes, etc. They all have the basic same underlying cause with slight variations. So first thing I'm going to do is share my screen. So just bear with me for one tick while I do that. Okay, awesome. So if you had a car that had got a banging noise coming from the engine that developed all of a sudden, and you took it into the mechanic, and the mechanic said, yeah, we can sort that, you're right, it's a horrible banging, we have this wonderful soundproof blanket, we will wrap the engine in, you're not going to hear a thing, it'll be sorted. I think if you heard that, you'd not be too confident on using that mechanic, because sure, the sound might be diminished or gone, but he hadn't actually dealt with the cause of the issue, and the chances were going to be great that not too long and the engine was going to stop working altogether, and you're going to have a much bigger problem on your hands. So we understand instinctively that if we're going to fix something like that, we have to fix the cause. And yet when it comes to disease, so many people are happy to accept doctors who don't know the cause, who don't treat the cause, but instead they deal purely with the symptoms of that cause. So what I want to talk about today is the cause of chronic disease. And I'm going to be particularly paying attention to cancer, because that's where my journey really started, when my wife was diagnosed with cancer and 3 other family members all diagnosed with cancer over a 12-month period. So I got very serious about trying to understand the cause of cancer, because what I did know at that time, although I didn't know the cause at that time, what I did know was that chemo, which was the main solution offered by the conventional treatment, chemo caused cancer. It was in of itself a carcinogenic. And I didn't see the logic in using something which caused cancer as a treatment for cancer. Radiation too, I knew, caused cancer. In fact, there's a big skull and crossbones on anything with radiation, and the doctors run out of the room when they treat somebody using radiation. So again, it made no sense to me to use something that would cause the problem it was supposed to solve. So I began to delve into and try to understand the cause, because one thing I did know was that we were in an epidemic of chronic disease, not just cancer, but all the other things I mentioned and a lot more: autism, diabetes and Alzheimer's, and fibromyalgia and multiple sclerosis, and various autoimmune diseases, etc., etc., were being ravaged with. And I thought, it seems that we've just had this sudden surge of chronic disease. There must be some reason for that, and there must be some link between them, that they've all started in the same period of time. So with that in mind, I want to read a quote from Thomas Edison, who said, "The doctor of the future will no longer treat the human frame with drugs, but rather will cure and prevent disease with nutrition." So I'm going to start by just mentioning this first foundational cause of chronic disease, which is a deficiency of nutrition. And you may be forgiven for thinking, surely in today's modern age, with all the food available to us, albeit there's lots of bad food, but nevertheless we eat so well, surely we can't be deficient. And I'm going to explain why actually we are deficient, and not only are we, but virtually everybody is deficient, and there's particular reasons for that in this time and age. So the second thing I'm going to talk about is toxins. There's a study right before you which talks about the link between obesity and toxins. I'm not going to talk much about obesity, but that's another epidemic that we have, even though it's been shown that obese people often don't eat more than non-obese people, and sometimes they eat less than non-obese people, and yet they are obese. And again, we're going to see that we have a link with obesity and toxicity. And it's because toxins inhibit the body's ability to function correctly, which includes the metabolism. But I'm going to focus on the link between toxins and disease. Okay, so here's an article about the link between seafood and the toxins in seafood and ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, among others. So it's not a theory that toxins are linked to disease. It's an absolute proven scientific fact. Now, going back to cancer, is there a known link between cancer and toxins? Well, you've probably heard the word carcinogenic. Carcinogenic is something that they know causes cancer. And there's a massive list of things, chemicals mostly, but also dirty electricity, EMFs and so on. But there's a massive list. If you Google known carcinogens, you'll find a huge list of known carcinogens. So it's the carcinogens in cigarettes that cause lung cancer. But those same toxins are not limited to cigarettes. They are in our shampoos, they are in our food, in our water, they're in our household cleaning products, our makeup, our skincare products, etc. So the very same known carcinogens that are in cigarettes and other products, we are being bombarded with from every angle. Fluoride, as an example, is a highly powerful known carcinogenic and neurotoxin. Okay, there's few chemicals that cause more cancer than fluoride, and yet they put it in our water. And by the way, the kind of fluoride they put in our water is industrial waste that they used to have to spend a fortune to get rid of. Now they put it in our water. I'm drinking coffee as we say that, and by the way, my coffee is made with water that's pure, and the coffee is organic. Non-organic coffee happens to be one of the crops most heavily sprayed with carcinogenic chemicals. Okay, so I'm going to read a quote that is quite shocking. It's from a book by Dr. Shay Rogers called Detoxify or Die. And she says, they merely give rats one dose of a common pesticide to cause Parkinson's disease in them. Scientists use the same recipe to create cancer in rats for research. They give them one dose of a pesticide or related chemical. Okay, so this statement is very, very powerful because what it tells us, if we think it through, is that scientists who want to study the effects of their treatments for cancer and Parkinson's and so on use animals, particularly rats, for that research, and they know exactly how to give those animals the disease that they want to study. They can give them cancer, they can give them Parkinson's, they can give them multiple sclerosis or fibromyalgia, etc. And they do it using toxins, the very exact same toxins that we find on our food and in our water. And nobody is talking about this. When you go to your doctor with cancer and ask them what was the cause, unless it was lung cancer, because that's been not just proven, but they've had lawsuits which have driven that point home, which eventually, after a huge fight over many, many years, the pharmaceutical industry lost the fight, and it was proven that smoking, in other words, the carcinogens in the smoking, in the cigarettes, cause cancer. But they don't talk about that for any other form of cancer. If you have liver cancer, kidney cancer, blood cancer, whatever, any form of cancer, they're rarely going to say, well, let's look at the carcinogens that cause it and see if you've been exposed to them. They never say that. They say things like, we don't know, it's the luck of the draw, maybe genes are involved, etc. So the fact is, we 100% and totally know beyond any shadow of a doubt that toxins cause cancer. They're called carcinogens, and they not only cause cancer, but they cause many other diseases. So what's the difference between one person getting cancer, let's say, and another person not, when we're exposed to the same toxins? Well, the difference depends on a couple of factors. The first is how much of the toxins we're exposed to. So the greater the exposure, the worse the risk. Okay. And the second is how well you are, how good you can remove those toxins, how fast you can remove those toxins. If you can remove the toxins faster than they come into your body, you're going to be okay. But if you're removing the toxins slower than they're coming into the body, then the toxic load is going to build up and build up until you get the disease. So the amount coming in compared to the amount going out. And the genetics plays a part in this, because genetically some people are better equipped at dealing with toxins than others. And that's why certain families have a higher risk factor, because they're not so good at removing certain toxins. Okay, so if you're not as good at removing, then you can handle less of them. So those are the two primary factors that determine whether or not you get a particular disease. Then there's other factors like how the toxins get into your body. So if they get in through smoking, so in via your lungs, for example, you're more likely to get lung cancer. If they're going transdermally through, for example, makeup that you're wearing, which is heavily toxic, by the way. I was talking to a girl just yesterday who sells perfumes and makeup that cost, in some cases, thousands. I mean, really, really high-end stuff. Okay, and we had a look at them, and so they were some of the most toxic products out of all of them. So you can't assume because you're paying a high price that you're getting less toxic products. So how it gets into your body, where it gets into your body, all of these play a role into determining what effect it has on your body. Okay. So jumping quickly back to nutrition, here's a list put together by a very famous natural doctor. He actually started off as a vet and then a medical doctor, finally a natural doctor. And he's showing some of the known deficiencies that are related to particular diseases. So for example, arthritis is linked to deficiency. Bone spurs are. Depression is linked to deficiency. High and low blood pressure, insomnia, irritability, osteofibrosis and osteoporosis, panic attacks, PMT, tooth decay, acne, Alzheimer's, asthma, infertility, multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, psoriasis, okay, ADD and ADHD, adrenal failure, cardiovascular disease, that's heart issues, depression, did I say that already? Diabetes, learning disabilities, retardation, cretinism is directly linked to the deficiency of one mineral, which is iodine. Okay, so allergies, dermatitis, heartburn, stomach pain and yeast infections, all of these things are related to deficiencies. So I just mentioned iodine in relation to cretinism. Well, also they've discovered that 97.6% of cancer patients are deficient in iodine. So the correlation there is so strong, and yet no doctor, pretty much no doctor anyway, talks about this. You know, every cancer patient should be on iodine, and in particular those with breast cancer, prostate cancer, thyroid cancer, and ovarian cancer, which of those four are particularly related to iodine deficiency. So, why are we all deficient? Here's why. Here's one of the studies, there's many, but here's one of them that highlights the factors underlying our deficiency. In 1953, UCLA studied a plot of land in California, and what they were looking at was the iron content of the spinach there. Okay, and what they found was that a single bowl of spinach was sufficient to cover all your daily requirement for iodine. So you didn't need to eat anything else. As far as iron was concerned, you were covered just from that bowl of spinach. They repeated the study 50 odd years later, and what they found was a bowl of spinach no longer covered the iron requirements of an adult. In fact, now, instead of eating a bowl, they had to eat not 2 bowls, not even 3 bowls, but 43 bowls of spinach. Okay? Why on earth would that be? Well, the spinach itself is deficient. I'm going to go briefly into some reasons why that would be, but what's happened is all of our fruit and all of our vegetables are now extremely deficient, not just in iron, but every mineral across the board. And in some minerals, it's non-existent, especially the micro minerals, the trace minerals, which were only in small amounts in the first place, are now gone altogether. Okay, they're not any longer in the soil. So they did tests on other minerals such as calcium and magnesium along with iron in a variety of vegetables, and that is the graph line that shows the results. In 1914, the beginning of last century, 100 years ago, the soil and therefore the vegetables grown in the soil was rich in minerals. But by 1997, it was pretty much on the floor. So the vegetable looks the same, but many people will tell you, many older people especially, I'm getting towards the age where I can count as one of those people, but many older people will tell you that fruit and vegetables don't taste the same as they used to, and they're not wrong. And that's because of the mineral deficiency in the fruit and vegetables now, which helps to contribute to its taste. So the soil is deficient, therefore the vegetables are deficient, therefore we are deficient. Apples used to contain enough minerals to keep the doctor away, as they used to say. Not anymore. Some of those minerals is now 83% and 96% deficient in. Looking at calcium, phosphorus, iron, magnesium. Okay, potassium is the only of the mineral of those that was pretty much the same, and that's because potassium is one of the 3 minerals that they do put back into the soil. All the rest of the minerals are put back. And how many minerals are there? Well, let me give you a clue. There are 90 known nutrients that our body needs. Okay, there's probably more. There's nutrients that we're discovering all the time that we don't know about, which is one of the reasons you can't take isolated supplements, because we don't know some of the nutrients that our body needs. But there's 90 that we know of. Of the 90 that we need, which includes vitamins, includes essential fatty acids and other stuff like that, of those 90, 60 of them are minerals. Okay, so we need 60 odd minerals that we know of, and there's only 3 of them there's enough in the soil. So you get an idea of how important this is. Now, how important are minerals compared to vitamins? Minerals are more important than vitamins, because in fact vitamins are useless and sometimes damage us if we don't have sufficient minerals. The vitamins work in conjunction with the minerals, and without the minerals they don't work at all. Vitamin D is a good example of a vitamin that's important but actually damages us without sufficient minerals, for example magnesium, which most of us are deficient in. And vitamin D contributes to lowering our magnesium because it uses up magnesium. So if we're low in magnesium and we take vitamin D, just one example of many, that can contribute to causing extra problems. So, and there we go. Let's take a look at the soil. The soil is very easy to study. Scientifically, there's no question and no doubt about certain aspects of the soil that we can check, and one of those things is mineral deficiency. And the World Health Organization, the UK Ministry of Agriculture, the Royal Society of Chemistry and UNICEF are among the organizations that have studied the soil's depletion over the years. And again, you see the graph right there of how strongly it's been depleted, and there's percentages on the right hand side. We see, for example, North America is depleted by 85%, here in Europe by 72%. So we see that the soil has been studied and shown without question to be deficient. And if our food is grown in deficient soil, then the food is going to be deficient. Let me add an extra dimension to this. If you add toxins to the soil, which all the soil that our farmers are growing plants in are, because they're spraying it with herbicides and they're spraying it with pesticides, the toxins inhibit the plant's ability to absorb the nutrition that's in there, the minerals that's there. It blocks their ability. So you've got soil that's 85% or 72% deficient, and now you're going to add toxins which make it harder for the plant to get to those minerals. You can begin to see why that's going to cause a problem. Not only that, but as the plants with the toxins, we become toxic, and the toxins in our body also inhibit our ability to absorb the less nutrition we're getting. So they also limit our ability to take nutrition in. So we're getting less nutrition, and now we've got toxins which mean that we get less nutrition. It's a vicious circle of less nutrition. So, as I've outlined, we have two problems that work hand in hand. We have toxicity and we have deficiency. The two work together. If we're deficient, it makes our bodies less able to deal with the toxicity. If we're toxic, it makes our body less able to absorb the nutrients. So the two together are a very, very dangerous place to be, and that's the place we all are. This is exactly why we are seeing this epidemic of chronic disease, starting at the low end with allergies and maybe insomnia. We're getting to see infertility. We're seeing all kinds of issues, right the way through to the more serious diseases that potentially can kill us. And yet, plants remain our best chance. The nutrients from plants remain our best chance at turning things around. So how, in a world of deficiency, how do we possibly get enough nutrition, and how do we help our bodies to get rid of the toxins, and how do we reduce the toxins that causes all of this? Because if we can deal with these two problems, then we can have a huge impact on our health. And this is why many people with serious chronic diseases, you hear all the time of so-called spontaneous healings and so on. And it's because they've somehow, consciously or unconsciously, dealt with the toxicity, the deficiency, or more often than not, both of them at the same time. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to talk about two supplements. And when I say supplements, I've got to be very careful to distinguish between an isolated, synthetic, petrochemically made vitamin or rock iron-based mineral, which is the normal stuff that you get from Holland and Barrett or Boots or whatever, which are not only not very helpful, but they actually damage our health. Okay, so they make chemically identical vitamins using petroleum, and this stuff might be chemically identical. I'm not a chemist, so I'm not able to comment on that. But what I can tell you is your body doesn't treat them the same. And one of them is toxic, the synthetic version, and the natural version is food for our bodies that comes from food. Okay, and we're designed to take our nutrition from food. So when it comes to minerals, and if you go to Holland and Barrett or Boots and you buy calcium, for example, what you're buying is crushed up rocks. And you don't need to be a genius to understand that crushed up rocks don't make good food for human beings. We need to have the crushed up rocks after they've been changed into an organic form by passing through a plant, and the miracle that happens in the plant or in the animal that's eaten the plant. Either way, it's now an organic form, and we need it in that form. And we also need it in a complete form, because minerals and vitamins come in nature, in food. They come in balance, not in isolates. When we buy supplements, it's isolates. So we need it from food. So I'm going to be talking about the most concentrated food on the planet, and that is the seed of the plant, because in the seed is contained all the nutrition that's required for the plant to become the giant oak tree or whatever it's going to become. It's everything needed for that plant to get started and become whatever it's going to become. And that the seed has 30 to 40 times more concentrated nutrition than the plant that it's going to become. But there's a problem, and that is it's very difficult to access that nutrition, because normally if you eat seeds, they pass straight through you. If you crush and grind seeds, they oxidize very rapidly and actually become rancid and not healthy. So you have to find a way around these problems. Now, Rain is the company that produces the particular two products that I'm going to talk about. It's one of the companies that I love because I see the best results with so many different things using these products. And I've got a number of products, but I'm going to talk about two. And in fact, I'm going to spend most of my time talking about one of them because of time. And I just should say that these products are totally natural. There's no additives, no heat is used, which is very important because heat damages certain attributes of the food. There's no chemicals, no preservatives, it's non-GMO, and it's organic. It's just super concentrated food, but it's using seeds with thousands of years of history for healing that have very powerful healing attributes. And I'm going to talk a little bit about those seeds, and I'm going to show you some of the actual results you can see physically with some photographs of what results people have got. And then I'm going to open it up to questions. Now, if you have any questions already on your mind, you can start to you can type them into the chat box. I won't be, no one will be looking at that right now, but it will already be there. And when we come to questions, I will deal with those questions first. Okay, so if you have a question come into your mind, just type it into the chat box. And when we get to the end of this, we will look at those questions. Okay, so the first product, which I'm not going to spend much time on, is called Core. Core, nutritionally, is the equivalent to 6 or 7 green smoothies. And if you've ever made a smoothie, you'll know it takes a small bucket full of fruit and veggies to make a single glass. So 6 to 7 smoothies is a lot of fruit and veg, and nutritionally that's what Core has got. Okay, so and by the way, it does it a lot cheaper than the fruit and veggies. Even if you're using non-organic fruit and veggies, it's still a lot cheaper to get it this way. In fact, it's only about £3 or it's less than £3, about just over around $3 I believe in the US, or €3 in Europe, to get all this nutrition. But it's got a lot more than nutrition. So let me tell you, there's 10 different ingredients in Core. Things like chlorophyll, chlorophyllin, spirulina, wheatgrass, milk thistle, black cumin, what else? Cranberry, dandelion, kale. That's 9, and another one. So I always miss one just for fun, so people can go and do a bit of research. But anyway, so all of those particular concentrated foods, apart from providing you with this huge kick of nutrition, that's the equivalent of 6 or 7 green smoothies in 1 single ounce of liquid. Apart from that, they are all very concentrated ways to support your body's ability to remove toxins. So if toxins and deficiencies are the 2 causes, you need A, to provide the nutrients so that you're not deficient, and B, you need to help your body remove toxins. And I'm going to come to C, which is to help your body fight the damage done by toxins, which is the next product. But B, help your body to remove toxins, is Core. It's going to support your kidneys and liver and pancreas, small and large intestines, gallbladder, to get the toxins out of your body that are causing the problems that we talked about, that are causing pH imbalances, making you more acidic, that are causing inflammation, that are causing oxidation, that are causing low cellular oxygen. All of these problems caused by toxins, you have to get the toxins out. That's what Core does. You need this kind of product if you want to speed up the amount of toxins out of your body being removed, along with reducing the amount of toxins coming into your body. Okay, so you need to reduce the number coming in by making wise choices. For example, eating organic. For example, drinking pure water, not fluoridated toxic water. Okay, so for example, switching your makeup for non-chemical, non-toxic versions. You want makeup that you could eat if you wanted to, because it's so non-toxic. So all of these things reduce the toxins coming in. Core is going to reduce the toxins coming out. Okay, so the next product, which I'm going to spend a little bit more time on, is called Soul. It's 3 primary seeds and a 5-carbon sugar called D-ribose. The 3 seeds are black raspberry, black cumin, and grape Chardonnay. They've got lots and lots of studies on these seeds and their healing ability. For example, black cumin is 281 times more powerful than aspirin as an anti-inflammatory. And I haven't got time to go into inflammation, but inflammation is underlying all chronic disease. Even things you wouldn't think, like depression, is a result of inflammation in the brain caused by toxins. Okay, so you have to fight inflammation. Inflammation is also, by the way, the cause of pain. That's why aspirin works as a painkiller, because it fights inflammation, just not as well as Soul, but it fights inflammation, and that's what takes away the pain. Sole can be used topically, and you're going to see some pictures coming up soon where people have used Sole topically. But it's also a drink that you can drink, and in fact it's very tasty. It tastes great. Even babies like Sole. It contains vitamins like A, B1, B2, B3, B6, C, E, K. It contains the essential fatty acids, omegas 3, 6, 9. It contains flavonoids, D-ribase, enzymes. It's packed jammed full of nutrients. It contains 9 of the 14 super nutrients that our body requires every day, just from this one. It contains nutritionally the equivalent of 20 servings of organic fruit and veggies. And again, much cheaper than the fruit and veggies. In this case, in the UK, your 20 servings of fruit and veg nutritionally in Sole would cost you £2.40, which is less than the average bag of chips. In the UK now, which I believe I googled not long ago, it is £2.50 for a bag of chips. A bag of chips might fill you. You might even enjoy the chips, but it's not going to be doing very much nutritionally for you. Sole is giving you this huge kick for the price of a bag of chips, or less than the price of a coffee. Okay, so it's incredibly good value for money, and I'm going to show you what it does. Okay, so let me, oh, it's jumping around. So this first picture is showing you what's going on inside of the body. Okay, this is the blood. So before and after picture of the blood. And the first picture is showing you the blood of someone who's not too healthy. Their red blood cells are not shaped correctly. They're misshaped. They're not nice and round like the second picture, but instead, some of them are very, almost looking like an embryo, elongated, tadpole-y kind of look to them. They're sticking together, which means that they're not free-flowing. They're not able to carry oxygen as they should into the cells, which means that energy levels are going to go down. They're not able to carry nutrients into the cells, which means you're already deficient, and now you're not transporting the few nutrients you've got properly into the cells. Big problem, okay? And worse, they're not able to flush the cells of the toxins that are building up. So the toxins, it's going to slow down your body's ability to remove toxins. So it's vital that your blood is working properly. This person took one single packet of Sole, and 1 hour later we see their blood, and it is radically improved. It now looks really healthy, looks great blood. This didn't happen on this one person. This happens on every single person who's sick and has got blood that looks a mess like that after they take Sole. Usually about 20 minutes it takes. That's all. This is an hour after, so that it's had enough time to be fully effective, but 20 minutes later it looks pretty much like this. So if you can help your blood, then, and if you've got any kind of blood disorder, then, you know, from a blood cancer to diabetes to anything else, then this is going to help your blood. And pretty much no matter what problems you have to start with the blood. It's a little bit like changing an oil in the car. If the oil is thick and grimy and sludgy, your engine is not going to work properly no matter how many parts you change or what you do to the engine. Unless you change that oil, okay, nothing's going to run as it should. So here's a girl who took Sole for a few months after suffering with acne from the age of 8. So this is a long ongoing problem due to imbalances in her body. Usually it's linked with hormonal imbalances, among other things. Sole helps to balance those hormones, to improve the blood's ability to remove those toxins and so on. Okay, and as a consequence, a few months and we see her beautiful skin as it should be. Okay, same thing here. This is a different skin problem. This is eczema. This is on a baby. Babies are now being born with hundreds of chemical toxins in their system at birth because the mothers are so toxic. The toxins are in the breast milk. The toxins are just absolutely everywhere. We're now having toxins in the rain. Even nature's ability to purify is being challenged by the levels of toxins that we're having now. Here's a lady who was very toxic, and as a consequence, she had a range of problems, which is very common to have a range of problems over time when you're becoming more and more toxic. So this lady had fibromyalgia, which is a terrible, painful condition that affects the muscles. She had rheumatoid arthritis, another terrible, painful condition, this time affecting the joints. She had nerve damage to her right leg, nerve damage to her left leg, adult onset asthma. She was in such a mess and so much pain, she couldn't get about without a wheelchair. She was on a pain pump just to help keep down the pain levels that all these toxins and deficiencies were causing. The doctors just gave her medication to suppress the symptoms, in other words, to suppress the pain. But they didn't know how to deal with the cause. It's shocking that our doctors are not dealing with the cause, which is why they haven't discovered a cure for anything in my lifetime. No disease, because they're not even looking at the causes of disease. They're only looking at symptoms where they can treat somebody with chemicals for the rest of their life and make a fortune on them, because the pharmaceutical industry is an industry about making money, not about looking after your health. And you make more money from sick people and managing symptoms than you do from making people healthy. That's just a sad business fact that underlies our whole health industry. This lady, again, 7 months is all she was on the Soul for, and then she was free of pain. She was able to run and dance and jump and get her life back. No longer needed the painkillers, no longer needed any of the symptom-dealing chemicals that she was being prescribed by her doctors. Okay, so doctors treat the symptoms of disease, but their natural approach is to almost ignore the disease and treat the underlying cause. It's a little bit like if you have a fish who's living in a stagnant pool and is sick. You don't get the little fish and push drugs down its throat. You clean the pool. If you clean the pool, the fish will get healthy again. Okay, we need to clean the pool of our blood. We need to clean the pool of our lymphatic system. We need to get the toxins out, and then our body can heal in the same way that the fish is going to heal once it's in a clean pool. Okay, that's what we need to do. Here's a little boy who had kidney disease, high blood pressure. He was on 3 sachets of Soul every 2 hours for a short period of time, and he looks like a different boy in the second picture. This guy with psoriasis has gone from, horrible psoriasis filled skin to completely clear in 2 months. Although he did get worse for a while, which is quite common when you deal with the cause. It's quite common to get worse in the same way that if you spin around and around and around, you get dizzy. Okay, and the cause of that dizziness is spinning around and around, right? But when you stop spinning and address the cause, you get more dizzy, even though you've now addressed the cause at first before you get better. Okay, so when you deal with cause, sometimes things get worse for a while before they get better. Here's another guy, 2 months of psoriasis and massively improved on Soul. 3 sachets a day in this case. Little girl with a skin condition that the doctors couldn't deal with. They gave her steroids and all the things that doctors do, but they couldn't deal with it because they're not addressing cause. The mum did better than the doctors because she found out about Soul and gave her little girl Soul. And by the age of 3, after a year of the doctors failing to help her, and she, a year of a mum helping her, and she was completely clear and looking like the beautiful little girl that she is. Here's a stroke victim. After a stroke, and if they'd been on call before the stroke, maybe they wouldn't have had the stroke. But after the stroke, toes often clenched. Here's a case where the toes are extremely clenched. 3 packets a day for a week, and we're already seeing a huge improvement. Okay, and we have edema here. This is fluid retention, very common among people who are very toxic, that they can't get the fluid into the cells. As you saw, the blood at the beginning would have been struggling to get into the cells. That's why. So they're struggling to get the into the cells here, and so the fluid is building up around the cells. One day on Soul, and from almost like elephant feet to normal feet. Okay, so I could give thousands of pictures. I could tell you hundreds and hundreds of stories of people I personally know that have had their lives changed. People who've got out of their sick beds where they were suicidal, and now they're full of life again. People who are on their deathbeds, and the doctors can do nothing, and they then deal with cause, and now they're fully fighting fit again and passionate about life. I could talk about my paralysis that was dealt with in days. Once I gave my body the anti-inflammatories from Soul, and began to deal with the cause of the paralysis. I could give you so many stories, but I'm hoping that these few stories are giving you a taste and an idea of what can be done when you start to deal with the cause and not deal with symptoms. Now, I will just say, I'm coming to a close now, but I will just say that you don't need to wait until you're sick, until your deficiencies and your toxicity is so great that you've got some horrible disease before you start looking after your body. In fact, many athletes use Soul and Core to help get the best out of their bodies. Here's a couple of examples just before I close. This guy is one of the world's best kickboxers. He uses Soul, and he's discovered over a few months that he was able to increase his strength by over 20%. It's one of the things these top athletes do is they monitor their body very, very closely to see what performance they get from it. They know every little bit about how their body's working, and 20% increase on a guy who was already a top athlete, already doing everything he could to get the maximum strength, the maximum flexibility, the maximum recovery, etc. He loves Soul, continues to take it to this day. And for some reason my computer, oh, here we go. So this lady is a bodybuilder, a champion bodybuilder. Again, a group of people that push their body to the very limits. They know what they need to do to get the very best out of their body for their particular goals. And again, another person that loves to use Soul. This guy, Irvin Katona, one of the strongest men in the world, and he also is using Soul. So you've got from one end of the scale sick people that are using these products to heal. The other end, you've got extremely healthy, fit people, top world athletes using these products to get the best out of their body. Okay, and then there's the rest of us in the middle who should be using stuff like this. Why should we be using it? Because unless you're eating 43 bowls of spinach, barrels of apples, and so on, then you are guaranteed that you are deficient. Okay, you're guaranteed, because you cannot possibly be getting everything you need from the food that we're eating today unless you're personally growing it yourself in a soil that you look after properly and it's fully minerally rich. And even then, they're spraying us with all kinds of chemicals and so on and so on. It's not as good as it should be, but whatever. That if you did that, fine. You probably could do without this. But if you're not one of those people that's growing your own food, you need this product. Okay, and I will just mention, by the way, I hope you can maybe tell I'm passionate about this because I've seen what it does. We're always looking for more people to help us spread the news, help us let people know about this stuff. We need more people because, you know, we have to get this message out, because they've made it impossible to get this message out via TV and marketing and so on, because you're not allowed to tell people about this stuff. Only by grassroots can we do this. This is grassroots movement. If you want to help spread the word, and you can get paid very well for helping as well, by the way. Hopefully that's not your goal, but there's lots of good money in this. But more importantly is getting the message out, because we're saving lives, we're changing lives. We're from babies through to elderly people full of chronic pain and disease. We're helping these people. So, but let's start with helping you. If you're not on these products, I suggest very strongly you get on them as quickly as possible. Okay, if you're on them, then help us spread the word. Tell people about them. Invite people to webinars like this. So, thank you very much for listening. And I'm going to hand over now to questions. So if you have any questions, then please either type them into the chat box, or if you know how to unmute yourself, ask the question and then unmute yourself. That's another way that you can do it. So I'm going to hand it back over to Brian. And if you want to, if there's any questions already there, usually there isn't any there yet, but if you could just start letting me know. And I'm struggling with my computer again. It won't. Oh my goodness, what's going on? Okay, I've got some computer issues here. Hopefully, I'm not hearing anybody. I hope I'm talking to somebody.
You can hear me though, right?
Oh, thank goodness for that. I was starting to think that I've done the whole thing to nobody.
Yeah, you're in luck today. There are a couple of questions already.
Okay.
The first question is from Pat. Pat says, can we take Soul when having chemotherapy?
Not only can we take Soul when having chemotherapy, but Soul was originally created by an oncologist specifically for people with chemotherapy to protect them from the excess damage done by chemotherapy. Now, in my particular opinion, I wouldn't use chemotherapy under any circumstances. Okay, and there's lots of reasons for that. But if someone is using chemotherapy, then they, of all people, should be using Sol and Core in order to support that what's going on and reduce the damage done by the chemotherapy. And it will actually help the chemotherapy be more effective. Although in my opinion, it's even more effective without the chemotherapy. But that's a whole other story. But yes, for sure, if you're on chemotherapy, for goodness sake, you're under more toxic attack than anybody. Okay, you're going to be more deficient than anybody because one of the things that chemo does, it attacks fast-growing cells. Well, guess where
Where'd he go?
Can people still hear me?
We can hear you now.
Did you not hear me while I was talking a minute ago?
It was
No.
only for a minute.
It was only for 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the 10 seconds you missed was awesome, by the way.
So you might as well repeat it, sir.
I don't know which 10 seconds it was. So,
Last 10 seconds.
But anyway, the point is, so chemotherapy attacks fast-growing cells, and the fastest-growing cells are in the gut. Okay, so it attacks the gut lining, which inhibits your body's ability to then absorb nutrition. So it makes you more deficient while at the same time making you more toxic with toxins known to cause cancer. So yes, it will start to reduce the size of the tumor, and even that, it's only attacking the tumor cells that are non-dangerous. It doesn't actually kill the stem cells, which are the ones that create the tumor. But anyway, whole other subject. The answer, in short, is yes. For goodness sake, if you're on chemo, protect yourself with Sol and Core and help your body to remove the toxins after they've done their work. So yes, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, it does indeed. Effectively, I'm sure. Now we have a question from Michelle. Michelle is asking you to repeat what you said about about vitamin D damages us if we don't take something with it. What is that something again?
Well, first of all, you shouldn't take, if you're going to take vitamin D is one of the vitamins that if you have too much of it, it damages you. So you don't want to take vitamin D willy-nilly unless you know you're deficient. Now, if you're living in the UK, you pretty much know you're deficient, to be fair. If you have dark skin, you're even more likely to be deficient.
Like me, right?
Right, yeah, you're probably, I can just look at you and see you're deficient, Brian. So yeah, I mean, black people, I've got a bigger problem with this because they come from a warmer climate.
You had to say that.
And their skin, your skin, Brian, is gonna struggle more with vitamin D than our skin because we're much more sensitive. And likewise, we struggle if we go to a very hot climate. Our skin's more sensitive to overexposure to sun.
Yeah.
So anyway, so vitamin D. First of all, you need to know you're deficient.
I'll see you down there.
That's the first thing. Secondly,
Okay.
there are other nutrients that you need. Now, one of the key ones is
Good night.
magnesium. Okay, and vitamin K is another one. But if you're deficient in magnesium, so you get some people, they're tested deficient in D, they take D, and they're still deficient. And they're taking high levels and they're saying, why am I still deficient? Well, simply because you haven't got enough magnesium to use that vitamin D. So if you haven't got enough magnesium, then your vitamin D is not only useless, it harms you. So you have to have enough magnesium. Well, magnesium is one of the minerals that we are the most deficient in. Of all the minerals, that one is one that we are the most deficient in for a variety of reasons. So we need to make sure we've got enough magnesium. So what do people do? They go and they get magnesium from Holland and Barrett or Boots, and they get in crushed up rocks, which the body can do very little with. You can absorb just the tiniest amount from rocks. So if you absorb, let's say 10%, which is a typical amount that you absorb from rock-based supplements, if you absorb 10%, the other 90% you didn't absorb, what's going to happen with that? That's now a toxin in your body that your body has to get rid of. Okay, so you don't want magnesium from crushed up rocks or calcium from crushed up rocks. You want it from an organic source. Well, where do you get that from? You get it from Core, because Core is a green product. You get it from spinach and these things, but they're deficient. They're deficient. So you need a very, very concentrated. So that's where something like Core is going to come in. And with magnesium, you can also, there's one way you can take magnesium in its elemental rock-based form in a safe way, and that is transdermally. So if you get magnesium flakes and you put them in your bath and you soak in it, it then goes through the skin. That's a safe way to take in elemental magnesium. And people that do that will often find, for example, if people that struggle to sleep, one of the reasons for lack of sleep in many people is magnesium deficiency, because magnesium is the mineral which it's called the stress mineral. It helps your muscles to relax, and relaxation is fairly important for sleep, right? So one of the things you can do to relax if you have difficulty with relaxing is have a hot bath in magnesium flakes or even Epsom salts to a lesser degree, and that will your body will then absorb the magnesium. Or I'll tell you another thing: if you live by the sea, go and swim in the sea. And who knows, after a day on the beach and in and out of the sea, that you're absolutely relaxed and you just chilled out and you sleep like a log, right? And it's because you've taken in not just magnesium, but a massive range of minerals that are in seawater that you take in transdermally through your skin. Very, very healthy thing to do for those of us that have access to the clean seawater. But so magnesium through transdermal application is great, and then through the greens in food is where you want. Core is going to provide more because it's much more concentrated, but that's the answer for magnesium and vitamin D. And obviously the best place to get vitamin D by far is the Caribbean. That's where you go, right? And the sun. The sun is your answer to vitamin D, not so much the UK. Okay, but when you do get sun in the UK, make the most of it, get out there in the sun. Okay, and if you're going to use a sun cream wherever you are, then you need a non-toxic one. There's not many of them, but we do have them in the UK. It's possible to get non-toxic sun creams. Make sure you get one of those, not a toxic one, because sunscreens are particularly carcinogenic and a big cause of skin cancer. Okay, does that answer the question on that one? I can't remember who asked that, but whoever it was.
It was Michelle. Yeah, I think it's a wealth of information there. I hope she was taking notes. She actually has a two-part question as well. She was very interactive today, which is good to see. Her other question is, where can we get these rain and soil products?
Okay, that's a good question. So Rain as a company markets its products through distributors, word of mouth distribution. Okay, the reason it does that is because basically it's illegal to make claims about any natural product curing or doing anything. So for example, if I found a couple of berries that cured cancer, you just drink these berries for a month and you've got no cancer, and I told you about that, I could go to prison. Okay, if we put it on a shop shelf, you couldn't tell you what it did, because it's illegal. So they've managed to make it virtually impossible to market, to share products via retail that normally, we would buy our stuff from retail shops. There's other reasons that go along with that, such as they don't want those products to be seen by the public, but I'm not going to go into that. So the companies that have products like this sell it through word of mouth. So the person that asked you to come onto this webinar is a person probably who's a distributor with that company. So you go through them. You won't buy it from them. You'll buy it from the manufacturer, the company that's called Rain that made it. But you'll go through this distributor who shared the information with you. So somebody added you to the group. Ask you to come on, and they will probably be a distributor. If they're not, they will almost certainly know somebody who is. So just speak to them and ask them, and they'll be able to link you up. And then you will purchase it from the manufacturer, not from them. That's important. It's from the manufacturer. And the reason I say it's important not from them, and I'm sure whoever invited you is a very ethical and lovely person on that, but there's a lot of fakes on the market. Amazon and eBay and so on are particularly prevalent in selling fake nutrition from China and so on that looks like the original, not just nutrition, but sunglasses and designer handbags and all kinds of stuff. It comes from China. It's labeled to look like the brand, but it's not. So it's just to be sure you're not getting fake, even though you might know somebody, it's always better to get it directly from the manufacturer, not from an individual. Okay, so does that answer that question? Are we done with that, do you think?
Yeah, sounds good. At least they know where to go. And again, if they feel like they don't know where to get it, we can always help them find out exactly who invited them, and we'll ensure the product gets to them the correct way. That way they get the full benefits and the guarantees from the company as well.
Yeah, speaking of guarantees, do you want to just explain that, Brian? Because there is a guarantee that comes from the actual company.
Yeah, the company actually gives a 30-day money back guarantee for the first user. In other words, if you decided to take a box of Sol and a box of Core for, each box comes with 30 sachets, which is equivalent to a month. Whether you take, depending on usage, if you say you took one a day, that's 30 days. So that box is guaranteed. Those two boxes, one of each, are guaranteed money back if you are not happy with the results within that window. Obviously, we do understand that different people have different situations, and there are many factors to it, how long you've had what you have or what the situation is. But generally, you should be seeing some impact, some good results within that window. Also, it's worth mentioning that when you take these products, you could take them, say, 2 a day instead of 1 a day. So that means your 30 days is now, you're seeing results in half the time. So whatever the results you are seeing, if you're not happy with them, you get your purchase price back. You can't get any better than that. I don't think people get money back from pharmacies. Imagine if you went back and said, oh yeah, that tablet you gave me is not working. Can I have my money back? I think they'll look at you a bit strangely. So there's a few things like that. The company stands over the integrity of the product, and they want to make sure that you get the results as intended because they care about your results. All right?
Okay, so any other questions?
Yeah, there is one here actually. Michelle says, do we need to do any cleanses of the body before taking these products, or is it not necessary? Important question.
No, the only thing, good nutrition as given in Sol and Core is going to support your body naturally in removing toxins. There's a lot of hype and wrong information about detox. All of us are detoxing all the time. If we weren't, we would be dead a very short space of time because toxins are coming into our body. And if we weren't getting rid of them, we'd be dead. The question is, are we getting rid of them fast enough? That's the question. So Sol and Core are going to speed up that detox process. And sometimes you get detox symptoms. And if you do get detox symptoms, there's various things that you can do, which I haven't got time to go into in this particular webinar. But you will get, every person that tries Sol and Core for the first time should be given a video which explains to them about the possibility of detox and how to handle that. But no, you don't need to do anything special other than, I always suggest to people that are first on Sol and Core, any natural product like that, that they increase their water intake, because water's the flush. So as it's bringing out the toxins, you need to flush them out, and water's going to do that. So, and I highly recommend the purest water that you can get, and the purest water is distilled water that you distill yourself, not that you buy, because that comes in plastic bottles and it leaches the toxins from the plastic into the water, and sometimes it's been in there for a year or whatever, then it's full of toxins even though it was distilled originally. So you distill your own water, and that's the best. Now if you haven't got a distiller, then maybe the reverse osmosis is another method, and there's various gravity felt filters like Berkey and so on that all have their place. I'm a big fan of distillation though. That is the best way of purifying water. So, but drink more water. Even if it's tap water, drink more of it. But ideally not tap water. Ideally you've purified it somehow before you drink it. You're muted, Brian.
Right, that seems to be the last question, from what I can tell, I think, and you answered it very, very well. So maybe if I don't get another question in the next 30 seconds, we may call it a night. It's 9 o'clock after all. But what I will say in the meantime, while we wait, is just to highlight another important fact. Remember, these products, they start to work in your system. Your cells in your body will know that you took something healthy and helpful within a few minutes. But the company gives you 30 days guarantee. So you have a large window to start seeing results, obviously depending on what you have.
If I can just add into that, because not everyone is going to feel results, even though they will be getting them. because, for example, there are many doctors that do microscopies, which is the blood thing that I showed at the beginning. So they'll give somebody Sol after they've looked at their blood, and then they'll see a huge difference in their blood after 20 minutes or so. Those people generally don't feel that. It's happened, you can see it under the mic, they generally don't feel it. If you say to somebody, what's your cholesterol? Is it high, low? Is it about right? Where is it? Unless they've been tested, they're not going to know, because you can't feel that. If I say, what's your oxidation levels right now? You've got a lot of inflammation, a lot of oxidation. How's your blood pressure? All these things people don't know unless they've been tested, or unless it's an extreme end. Once it gets extreme, then you might start to feel it. So a lot of what goes on in our body isn't felt, good or bad. If we eat a McDonald's, we know it's harming us. Most of us don't feel that. Some people do, but most people don't feel that the damage that McDonald's is doing. And also we can feel, so for example, we can eat something really bad that's going to damage our body, like ice cream. I can eat 2 litres of ice cream, no problem, in one sitting, and it makes me feel good. But it's not doing me good. So our feelings are a little bit dodgy to rely on. Sol works on 100% of people, unless, I say 100% and then unless, which sounds a bit, 100% of people that are able to take it. There are some people who might have an allergy, for example. You can be allergic to absolutely anything, including nutrients that you absolutely need to live. You can still be allergic to them if your body's messed off enough. Assuming that so I've seen people drink water and vomit it straight back because their gut's in such a mess. Okay, so assuming that you can actually take it and you've not got such a mess that you've got, your body can't handle something good for it, it's going to work. It's going to do good stuff on your body. Now, whether you feel it or not just depends on what is wrong with you and whether it's working on the symptoms that you can feel. So if you've got pain, for example, caused by inflammation, so I've seen Sol work in 2 minutes on someone with painful joints many times. So they've got pain. If it deals with that particular symptom, it's a symptom that they can feel, and then when the pain goes, they're going to feel it. But unless it's working on symptoms that they're feeling, then they might not feel it. So I was paralyzed, and I became unparalyzed, and I didn't feel anything at any point. But my symptoms disappeared. Now I could move, but I didn't feel it. So I don't like to rely too much on feeling. If I relied on feeling, I would be eating a hell of a lot more ice cream, I can tell you. But I don't just rely on feeling, I also rely on my common sense. And I know that this stuff is super concentrated food that my body needs. And so I don't like to encourage people to judge their feeling, judge the scientific facts that it's full of nutrients, your body needs them, you're going to get them. Now, hopefully you'll feel the results of that. And hopefully it won't be 2 years before you feel it. Hopefully you'll notice it quite quickly, but you might not. But that doesn't mean it isn't doing it. Okay, it doesn't mean your blood isn't being benefiting from it. It doesn't mean you're not increasing your oxygen levels to your cells, because you don't know right now if you're low oxygen, medium oxygen, fully oxygen. You don't know. Right? You can't tell. And so if it changes, how are you going to know when you don't know how you are now? Without a test, you're not. So let's not rely too much on feeling, unless you're taking it and you don't care about the nutrients, you don't care about anything, all you care about is that pain in your knee, and you still have the pain in your knee, then fine, you can judge on feelings. But if you just want something super healthy that's going to change a lot going on in your body, it's going to do that. Don't rely on your feelings, it's going to happen. It's just going to happen. It's going to help your body. You're going to get the nutrients. You're going to increase your oxygen. You're going to decrease your inflammation. All these things are going to happen. Whether you feel them happening or not, it's happening. So just take it. Don't go by your feelings, is my advice. And I'm speaking partly because I'm a person that doesn't feel anything. I don't feel anything from anything. So I don't feel coffee. I just drank that cup. I don't feel coffee. I don't feel energy drinks. Not that I drink them. I don't feel anything. So I'm a reluctant person to use feelings as a baseline.
As a go-to. Yeah, no, and I agree with you 100%. And he says it's actually a very important point, because when I talk to people, even when I meet people on the street, I just talk to them and I tend to ask them the question, when did you do your bloods last? In other words, that way I can gauge to see, have they just been, or has it been a while? If it's been a while, I would encourage them to get blood tested and see what's in your system, and get that reading before and after you start using, because that way you cannot dispute a test. You know, a test is a test.
They've got doing. Many sick people I've helped with extreme cancer. You know, and they're being monitored to heck. You know, with millions of different blood tests and what have you, and they do see the results of the blood tests.
Yeah.
But you know, if most people aren't being tested, but I know a lot of people do feel it. With all that I just said, a lot of people feel better. A lot of people get extra energy, clarity of mind, all kinds of sleep better, etc. So lots of people do feel it. I just don't like it to be the baseline test. That's all.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, that sounds good. So yes, certainly do get tests and do a lot of other research that you can. I was also going to make the point about the guarantee, about the money back. From a business standpoint, if I was running my business and